What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Weekend Review for November 18th, 2024. 4.0 is in Wave 1, and that means server meshing is in an actual patch. Like, it's happening. And oh yeah, Save Stanton, it's in its second phase already. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, and I always appreciate you guys stopping by. But before we get into the video, let me share with you today's sponsor. Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Immerse yourself in the intense combat of War Thunder with over 2,500 incredibly detailed tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to fighter jets and tanks of today. War Thunder has a sophisticated damage model where the detail isn't just about looking cool. Each individually modeled component can be damaged and potentially disable you or your enemies if you take too much damage. There are different types of armor and weapons behaving like their real-world counterparts. There's a new game mode for every type of player. They even have a new mobile version that is available on iOS and Android, so you could take that massive multiplayer warfare you enjoy with you on the go. The mobile version features intuitive controls, impressive graphics, and the familiar massive multiplayer warfare in dynamic ground and sea battles with air support. Join over 70 million players in epic PvP battles today for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile by using my links in the description. New and returning players that haven't played in the last 6 months will get a massive bonus pack on PC and console. It's available for a limited time only, so don't forget to claim now. Thank you, as always, for engaging with the sponsor, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, let's get into those patch notes. We got a lot to talk about today. All right, very quickly, I do feel the need to apologize a little bit because I am feeling a little under the weather. My voice is going away, so hopefully I make it through this video, but I do apologize for the sound quality, I guess. But starting out with Monday, we had a 324.3 PTU, and this was just a minor patch to resolve some like lighting issues and stuff around ships and IAE. Then on Tuesday, Save Stanton went live, which was a surprise to me. But before we get into what's happening in game, CIG might be on top of their rewards here, or just getting better at communicating them in a deceptive way. They're sharing with us the pyro weapons, and they're going to be size 2 and size 3 repeaters from Hurston Dynamics, but they're just reskinned. We found out later from community manager Chris that they're definitely reskinned attritions, but they come with a higher damage output. What they sell on us later, if it's a ship or something like that, just remember they did this with Overdrive. It started out as a ship sale, and then they were like, oh, let's do some minor reward for them. This might be the minor reward. The ship sale might come later. But anyway, for phase 1, it's pretty simple. You just do a combat exclusive mission, which is just basically a reused rescue beacon, and you fight ships there, or you recover cargo from a ship that's already destroyed. It's pretty easy. Combat mission is soloable. The cargo one's a little tougher because it makes dogfighting with a cargo ship, you know, that's not as easy. So doing that with friends might not be bad. You have to complete 6 of these. Any of the 6. So you could do 3 and 3, 6 of one that you like. It's just up to you. These were incredibly buggy, though, and we had a lot of PTU patches of this, but they never fixed the major issues with it and went live with it anyway. Teleporting ships, missions not completing, all sorts of things going on with this. More on that in a little while. Tuesday, we had a 324.3 PTU, and the big thing here is kind of locking down the bespoke weapon, which is what they're calling it, the bespoke weapon on the Polaris. And yeah, it's just now you can't swap the weapons, but it didn't really feel that punchy. I don't know how you guys felt about it. Let me know in the comments below if it felt good for you. They also did some minor point defense cannon polish on ships and stuff like that. Then Tuesday 4.0, this was mostly a tech patch. Only things to really point out here is they did some polish to the jump point visuals, but from this point until Wave 1, I was not able to actually complete a jump. It just started breaking for me. Wednesday, 324.3 PTU, they added support for any point defense cannons to fire at any fighters that are hostile to you. It will also detect dumbfire missiles as well. And the big deal, they are testing the IAE ships. So the Crusader Intrepid was added. It's a Crusader starter ship. Its unique feature is its weapon, which at the time of recording, or the time of this footage, it is a size 3 gun, and it doesn't do a lot of damage. I swapped it out for an NDB, and it was a little bit better. The interior's nice. It's got 8 SCU, but can only hold up to a size 2 container. So I don't know what this thing is really for, but it's a starter ship. So the ship people have been asking for lots of ships, but one they've been asking a lot for is the next one. The Terrapin Medic is here. It has a tier 2 bed. We get a lot of injuries fighting in FPS, so this is going to be useful. And then lastly, 2 Hornets, the Mark II versions. We had the Tracker and the Stealth version. Not a lot to say about these, but the Stealth is kind of the meta in, or just stealth in general is meta in combat right now, I think. So that might play out nicely for people. I'm not sure. They did some polish on the Polaris and the MISC Starlancer. The Polaris got double its shield health and regen, and the Max received mostly visual and lighting improvements. I couldn't pick out anything too major that stuck out, but the ship is looking nice on the inside. The Prospector received an entirely new HUD layout, and I have to say, I like it. It got just a lot of info on the screen at one time, but the floating lights are really weird, and just the mining UI is still horrible to read. Thursday, 324.3 PTU. And it's like more polished around ships. They did some work on the Intrepid. I feel like the internal lighting is a bit better, but not sure. The Prospector HUD was improved. I can't tell a difference from the previous day. And then the Starlancer has a new HUD that is way simpler and puts the emphasis on the visor looking down at, or just looking down at MFDs. Like you can put your visor up for important information or use the MFDs, which I don't think is that ideal. Oh, you could bedlog in the ship now, and they added mirrors to the HAB bathrooms. And lastly, there was some work done on the VFX of the Terrapin engines. Then Thursday, we had a 4.0 Evo as well. Lots of patches this week. These were the first public notes. So they're explaining what is in 4.0 now, which is basically like meshing tech, jump points, mission refactor, and locations. Outside of that, there is a contested zone puzzle we've been spending weeks trying to figure out, but mostly ran into bugs and roadblocks that prevented us from finishing. In this patch, the same thing kind of happened, but I finally opened the final loot room door of contested zones. But CIG doesn't want us to know what's inside there just yet. And I have to say, I love that. I hope they don't reveal any of the actual loot in this loop until live. Fingers crossed on that. You know, leaks kind of ruin everything when it comes to that stuff. Then Friday, we had a Save Stanton Phase 2. Overdrive was weekly. We had 2 in the same week. This was pretty brutal to finish. I tried on Saturday morning, and by then, the missions were bugging out regularly. So most of my org was just working together, sharing the missions just to get our 6 out of 6 out of the way. You could either kill one enemy at an outpost or blow up some cool containers or ships at a bunker. The missions are fun, but I have to say, I am not seeing a lot of narrative elements at all to this, and this was supposed to be narrative heavy, so maybe that'll come later, I guess. Friday, we had another patch, a 324.3 PTU, and they're polishing the Crusader Intrepid, and they swapped out that size 3 gun with a size 4 repeater. Not sure if that's enough, to be honest. They kind of worked on the Ion and Inferno because it was so large that it had decent DPS compared to other fighters. This just doesn't. More quantum fuel updates to ships, which is really lowering the quantum fuel capacity of a lot of ships. And PDCs can now shoot down bombs. So that should be useful to neutralize like A2s and stuff like that at Jumptown. Saturday, 4.0 went wave 1. Now, I didn't participate on launch as I was playing on live with my org, but I tried Sunday morning and it was not pretty. So many issues with this patch now that it is scaling up, but in the end, I'm really happy people are getting into Pyro and checking it out on top of them going for scale right away. Let's get this out of the way. Let's get that heavy scale work done. Then there was a launcher update as well this week, a 2.1 version that was meant to improve like GPU and CPU performance and fix some bugs from previous versions. And for video updates, we had an Inside Star Citizen titled Alpha 4.0 Meshing Forward. This was a pretty tough watch for me personally. It was pretty technical, and they talked a lot about stuff we already know. But the TLDR is meshing works, but there's a lot of edge cases that they're kind of working through one at a time. Once again, meshing works, but just not as well as you would like, which stinks. So link in this is in the description if you like the more technical videos, but they also mentioned this, which I think is pretty cool.
We're not just going to jump to big numbers just because we can. There's nothing stopping us going and putting a couple more zeros at the end of the player cap, but that's not going to lead to a good experience until we continue to address the bottlenecks that we know we have, and more that we'll discover as we go forward.
We have a lot that we can improve on, and a lot of that looks very, very intimidating, but I'm excited would probably be the emotion to kind of use for it, because we've spent so long trying to figure out how we can do server meshing that we've not really had a chance to kind of slow down and look. And now we're kind of in that phase where we can kind of look at where things that have existed for the past 10 years can be improved. And being able to then tear out huge systems and replace them with NMQ and RMQ, and really try and make the best thing that we possibly can is really exciting.
So to me, that's really big. It might annoy some people, but think about it. Every bit of work the team has done for years now was to get to the meshing milestone. And that is sort of passed. We have a wave 1 build with meshing and jump points. Now they can clean up the mess they left for all these years. Is that when we'll see performance improvements? I just don't know anymore. And moving on, we had a Star Citizen Live question and answer for Star Engine. And I'm not going to lie, I watched this entire thing, and it was really hard to find anything that seemed like it would impact players anytime soon. There was something that's already in that they showed at CitizenCon, but it should help kind of hopping in 4.0 right now. But overall, it seemed like a lot of we could, or we would, or we'd like to do, or we'll see, we're still learning. And that's all good, but I'm just going to let them cook. And anything they talked about would only make Star Citizen, when it actually becomes better, just that much better, right? So I want to be clear, I have absolutely zero negativity about this. It's just not finding anything super impactful to pull out. But we did have one, and it was actually the last question of the SCL.
We can finally do denser and better vegetation, so maybe we can do less rocks now. But we do love rocks. I know, but kidding aside, with the new local data, the distribution will be different. It will not be as even anymore. The big rocks will be more out of the way to some extent, and it will be more obvious where they are, and you will most likely be able to drive much further without being constantly thrown around by hitting a rock.
Yeah, it's not like we won't ever have places that do have a lot of rocks, but hopefully the most common scenario might be I'm driving down a valley, there's a nice clear path down here, but up on the sides there's you can see the big piles of rocks coming down each side, but you can kind of make out a clear path, and it's not just a random roll of the dice whether you're gonna rock immediately in front of you.
So finally, Daymar rally members are rejoicing, I think, and it's just like everything else, it comes down to when. And I think that instantly makes ground vehicles more viable, regardless if weather is grounding ships or not. All right, and then we start out with a very sneaky sneak peek. It's a sneaky sneak peek because it's a sneaky ad for the Anvil Terrapin Medic, and we talked about that already. We showed it earlier, so it's no real guesses here. We know what it is. I like doing the guessing games on the sneak peeks with you guys. Let me know if you guys do as well, but yeah, not this week. Lore Post is about the Gladius, and I think we know pretty much everything there, so there's nothing really new to learn here. Let me know if I'm missing anything. The Starlancer TAC Q&A, I have to say they answered a ton of questions here, and I'm just pulling out a few answers that I thought stuck out, but link is in the description for all the questions. First one I picked out was about armor, and they said it has better armor than the build and the max, which are the same. It's the same ship. It's the Starlancer, right? But they didn't mention the other ships that you may own that you're considering swapping to this from for some reason. Marines will come out the side doors, which will replace the cargo elevator doors, and they will have cover fire with door guns. Think the Valkyrie, I think. And then the next one is funny. No, art in the ship is not functional. It's just art, like the rest of the game. So I thought that was a little bit of a chuckle. And then the ship is slower than other ships in its class, which again, we have to assume is ships like the Constellation or something, but it has larger fuel tanks. And then for dev post, this is a big one, 4.0 balancing act. And they start out with quantum drive balance. And they said that they are not going to mess with the spool time changes because it could affect combat, and they're going to deal with that much slower, so they hopefully get it right. They're just going to deal with max speed, acceleration, and fuel consumption. Then they give us the most information we've seen for any economy-related conversation since that SCL a while ago. They are balancing what cargo is on NPC ships. It is possible to find the mother load, essentially, but it would be rare. They're also balancing fuel prices for both quantum and hydrogen fuels. FPS ammo got a lot pricier, along with weapon attachments and food and drink. The missions got a full effort versus reward rework, but if you remember the cargo patch on the PTU, they were way off initially, so I expect that to happen here as well, so be patient on that one if you don't see something you like, but make sure you let them know. Commodities got love, but they're pretty vague here. The goal is to make cargo ships feel viable, all of them. We'll see. More rental ships are going to be available as well, and then Pyro is meant to be high risk, high reward. As we know, there'll be new minables. They mentioned a Pico knife holder. What does that have to do with Pyro? I have no idea. And then lastly, they said the goal is to minimize wipes. Again, we'll see. That is a lot of talk they just did. It's time to see that action, right? And I'm not seeing it in Evo or in Wave 1 just yet. Yogi decided to take the spectrum again and talk about master modes, and as per usual, it wasn't great news, but this time it wasn't horrible. He let us know that something was getting in the way, and it was 4.0 stuff, which I think we've heard this before, but it was basically the way a ship flies in the jump point, right? And I'm sure engineering and armor were a factor as well, which was... that's the bad stuff, right? The good news is that they actually have a plan. They have scheduled out the work, and it is a lot of work and a lot of time to get master modes in a good place. We don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know if it's even going to solve the issues, but we know it has to happen. So, you know, will everyone love it? Of course not, but he has expressed many times that he also feels the same way we do, and that he has some solutions. So let's see what they are, because I've been very frustrated with master modes as well, and that'll do it. So make sure you guys check out War Thunder. Link will be in the description, and yeah, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all that stuff, and we will catch you guys next week. Thank you so much for watching.